Hello, and thank you so much for joining me today on the Community Ledger. Again, my name is Andrea Banu, and if you have not already subscribed, please do so now. I appreciate all the love and support. I need that love and support. And so today I want to jump in what is happening in Chicago. As many of you may know, Mayor Johnson, Brandon Johnson, is going to be meeting with Congress early March so that he can go over some of the issues that they've been having with this sanctuary city concept or law that they have in place. And you have a lot of people in Congress who are questioning questioning his role in terms of utilizing billions and billions of dollars to go toward migrants and not to the constituents of Illinois. And so he has got to meet with Congress and answer a lot of tough questions. And so I want to jump into this video because we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about that press conference that he just did and how he feels about overall immigration in Chicago. So go ahead and grab something to snack on, and let's go ahead and start the show. Hello, hello, hello. Again, thank you so much for joining me today on the Community Ledger. As mentioned before the opener, we have got to talk about Mayor Brandon Johnson over in Chicago. Now, you know he has been getting lots and lots and lots of backlash. The people of Chicago are pissed with the amount of money that has been distributed toward migrants. They are very upset about it, and they are in support of what Tom Homan and ICE is doing in that city. And it seems to be just a constant battle. It is a battle between the people, the Chicagoans, as well as I'm not say Congress, but politicians in Chicago. And so I want to jump in so that you could see him in addressing the stress that is coming with this up and coming Congress meeting. So let's go ahead and take a dive in.
From tomorrow, Mayor Brandon Johnson is expected to testify in D.C. before Congress to answer questions about Chicago's sanctuary city status.
That's likely going to be a contentious hearing for the mayor. The Trump administration is suing Chicago and the state of Illinois over its sanctuary laws, and the chairman of the House Oversight Committee has accused Chicago of impeding ICE agents.
So with that background, we turn to NBC5 investigative reporter Bennett Haberly here to tell us all about what the mayor can expect in Washington.
Yeah, Stephan and Allison, the mayor is aware that this hearing may not be the friendliest of environments, but he told reporters today he is prepared to defend Chicago and its values. In his letter asking that Mayor Johnson testify, House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer, a Republican from Kentucky, criticized the city's sanctuary status, alleging that its, quote, misguided and obstructionist policies hindered the ability of law enforcement to effectuate immigration arrests. That closely mirrors remarks made in this federal lawsuit filed by the Trump administration earlier this month, which seeks to invalidate both Chicago's and Illinois' so-called sanctuary laws. Given that backdrop, we wanted to ask the mayor how he is preparing.
There is that potential, obviously, of criticism of Chicago's response to this humanitarian crisis, to the $600 million that it has cost the city, to the recent
$400 million.
Well,
over
400 million.
over 4 years, 400 million since 2022.
Of the amount of money that the city has shouldered as a result of this, and to recent immigration enforcement efforts. I'm guessing, what is your counterpunch going to be to that?
To our values? Yeah, that's not
the questions
that's
of
not.
Congress.
I mean, I get your question. That's not a counterpunch. That's just who we are. We're a city, again, that was established by a Black Haitian immigrant. That is the punch. We're responding to individuals who don't share our values.
Johnson was later asked who he's called on for advice, to which he said,
Jesus.
He later added he has texted with former Mayor Lori Lightfoot and Obama's Education Secretary Arne Duncan, among others.
We're going to hold to our values. And whether or not we can, get our message across in that particular room, doesn't mean that I'm going to stop.
Come to the table. Come to the table. I welcome you to come to the table and help us protect your communities. But if you don't, get the hell out of the way.
Recent criticism from Trump border czar Tom Homan has centered on immigration enforcement efforts, which Trump officials allege were mired here in Chicago due to the city's sanctuary laws. Since 2022, more than 52,000 migrants have arrived here in Chicago. It has not been without a financial cost. $400 million went to one company, Favored Healthcare Staffing, just to staff the migrant shelters. All told, the total cost is more than $600 million. That hearing, by the way, set for next Wednesday on Capitol Hill. Stefan?
We'll be watching to see what happens.
So you hear that $400 million has gone to just housing migrants at shelters. That is a lot of freaking money. Now, how much of that money was supposed to go to education, infrastructure, and everything else that Chicago needs right now? So that was taken away from the citizens of America, the locals in Chicago, and given to migrants. And so now what's interesting to me is that Mayor Johnson says, listen, I'm going to hold true to my values. And Chicago was founded by a Haitian immigrant. And, you know, I'm really questioning what those values actually mean, because this Haitian migrant that settled in Chicago, Jean-Baptiste Point de Sable, or Sable, however you pronounce it, resettled in Chicago. He was an entrepreneur. He was a law-abiding citizen, a good person to all accounts. Now, I am not sitting up here and saying that all that migrate to America are not good people. What I am saying, though, is that right now, ICE is focusing on criminals. So the issue is not that America or Americans want it to just be no one can come in. We created these borders where no one's allowed, you know, Americans only, that's the end. That is not people's complaint. The complaint is that the people coming into America, one, have not been vetted, two, are coming in incredibly large amounts that are burdensome to these communities and our economy, and three, there's a right and wrong way of going about it, okay? So when you bring up migrants like Mr. Jean-Baptiste, to me, it's incredibly disingenuous to mention his name, because he is not like some of the criminals that are coming across this border. Okay. And these are the ones that Tom Homan and Trump are trying to deport right now. And Chicago, the mayor specifically, is standing in the way of that. And so my question is, well, what exactly are your values? If your values are not to protect Chicagoans, what are these values? Is there a specific agenda that we are just not aware of, that you want to hold true to? And that word in itself is very interesting to me, because someone else utilized that term. I'll let you hear and give you a quick reminder.
Generally speaking, how should voters look at some of the changes that you've made, that you've explained some of here in your policy? Is it because you have more experience now and you've learned more about the information? Is it because you were running for president in a Democratic primary? And should they feel comfortable and confident that what you're saying now is going to be your policy moving forward?
Dana, I think the most important and most significant aspect of my policy perspective and decisions is my values have not changed.
So the most important aspect of her policies and her agenda is that my values have not changed. And Brendan Johnson states the same thing. We're going to hold true to our values. So what exactly are those values if it is not in alignment with what the people of Chicago want? Okay, you are an elected official that is supposed to work on the behalf of those in that city. And so if the people in that city say, we don't want all of these resources going to migrants, we don't want our schools and our recreation centers being closed so that they can house these migrants, we don't want to pass a new $800 million bill that is going to, you know, to harm our economy and up our taxes. If we don't want that, why are you acting against the desires of the people in your city and siding and aligning with people of another country. I'm not understanding what exactly the values are that Brendan Johnson is referencing, or even Kamala is referencing, because to me, my values, or using that word specifically, is code for my agenda. My agenda has not changed. I'm going to stick with my agenda, right? So it's almost as if ignore what everyone around me wants, ignore what the people who voted for me in desire. I'm going to stay true to the agenda that I want to push forward. So that was a very interesting statement to me. And it's also very interesting to me that when they asked who he's going to call upon, he says he's going to call upon Jesus. Okay. Okay. And so he going to have to call on a higher power, because what you're doing is wrong, Brendan Johnson. Like, this is wrong. So you can't call on Jesus to do while you're doing dirty work. Like, you're doing something that is opposing the people in your city. You are actually doing something that is actually causing harm to people in your city. So how can you call on Jesus to support you in this agenda? But I digress. I'm going to show you exactly what is happening in Chicago with these migrants.
We're also updating breaking news on the charges just filed after a man was found dead in a Norwood Park home. Guiderwin Bello Morales and Jefferson Ubia Delgado, both charged with murder and robbery. Multiple sources tell ABC7 that both suspects are migrants and that they met the victim on a social media app. That victim, a 63-year-old George Levin, was found tied up in the basement of a home near Talcott and Olympia on Sunday. Our I-team has been digging into the background of these men charged and found that Bello Morales had just been arrested earlier this month. Court records show he was charged with a simple assault after attempting to lure a 13-year-old girl to his car. He has yet to enter a plea to that charge. Both suspects will make their first court appearance for the murder charge tomorrow.
Watch breaking news on YouTube.
And so these are the kind of people that Brendan Johnson is protecting. Okay, he's not protecting children and women and other law-abiding citizens here in America. They are protecting criminals who are here from abroad. Now, again, I will state this over and over again. I am not stating that everyone that comes to America, even those who have come here illegally, wish to cause us harm. There are genuine people who genuinely want to come to the state so that they can have a better opportunity, a better life, and provide for their children. I am not talking about these people. I am talking about the ones who come over here with a desire to cause harm. And those are the ones that Tom Homan and ICE are specifically pursuing. And those are the ones that these Democratic mayors are trying to defend and protect. And so again, I have to ask, what are these values that these Democrats are speaking of? Because I'm confused. I don't understand why you would want to protect a criminal who is in your city causing harm. I've made multiple videos asking that same question, and I haven't been able to get anybody to answer it. Okay. I'm trying to find the logic behind why any Democratic governor, mayor, politician would want to protect a criminal who is causing harm in his community to be protected and not found out and deported. I just don't understand it. And so there's got to be a different agenda at play here that we're just not being we're just not privy to, or we're just not being notified of. We have an inclination on what it's all about, but they're not speaking on it, because I do believe that it is something a bit more nefarious. But nonetheless, I thank you again for joining me. If you have not already, please do subscribe, because I most certainly appreciate it. And I also want to continue this conversation in the comment section. I want to know what your opinion is on, Brendan Johnson's sentiment that, he's going to stick to his values. He's going to go in front of Congress and said, I made these decisions based on what I believe is important to the people of Chicago. And yes, I spent 400 million doing it, and I just agreed to we were just approved another 800 million, which I think they said once you add the interest, it's going to be up like $2 billion in debt that Chicago is going to be just to cover the cost of all of this within these last few years. But nonetheless, he's going to go to Congress and state that this was a decision that he stood by, and he is going to die on that hill. And I am interested to see how this next election goes, because Brandon Johnson, I can't even get his name right, is going to be running again. And if he's calling on Jesus, he's calling on Lori Lightfoot, who was a disaster. So I don't know what he is going to do to prepare for Congress, because he is definitely going to get dragged. But again, let's continue this conversation in the comments. If you have not already, do share, like, and subscribe. Please know that I appreciate all that you do and spending this time with me. And this is the Community Ledger. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and watch the next video by clicking right here.